Marcus gave her was the same one she'd seen years ago from professors who questioned why she was in advanced engineering classes at all. "You know what really gets me?" Marcus said, his tone dripping with arrogance as he played to the audience. "She actually thinks she can pull this off. Look at that confidence." He paused, smirking. "What is it? A couple of online tutorials and suddenly she thinks she's a mechanic?" The words unlocked a painful memory. Kesha was only 16 when she landed her first internship at a respected repair shop. On day one, the supervisor handed her a mop and told her to organize tools. "Women are good at organizing, not fixing," he'd said, loudly enough for all the male interns, who were immediately assigned technical work, to hear. "Hey, lady." Marcus's mocking voice dragged her back to the present. "Still here? Or ready to quit? You can walk out right now if you don't want to embarrass yourself." Kesha inhaled deeply and walked straight toward the Lamborghini. Placing her hands gently on the hood, she felt the subtle vibration others had missed, an almost invisible clue pointing to a fault in the electronic management system. "May I open the hood?" she asked evenly. "Sure, Professor," Marcus shot back, sarcasm heavy in his voice. "But don't expect to see anything new. That engine is too complex." He stopped mid-sentence when her expression sharpened. In less than half a minute, Kesha had pinpointed the real issue. It wasn't just faulty fuel injection. Someone had installed the wrong performance chip, a mistake only careless or dishonest mechanics would make. "Who was the last person to work on this car?" she asked, her voice calm but cutting. "What does it matter?" Marcus barked, suddenly defensive. "It doesn't run, and you said you could fix it." But she'd noticed the flicker in his eyes, the way he looked away. There was a story buried there, and she was starting to piece it together. "Of course I'll fix it," Kesha said simply, "but I'll need certain tools you don't have here." "What tools?" one of the dealership mechanics asked, visibly uneasy at her confidence. "A European diagnostic scanner for post-2020 Lamborghini systems. An ECU reprogramming kit. A few other things." She stopped when their blank stares gave them away. "Standard gear for anyone who works on supercars." An awkward silence hung in the air until Marcus broke it with a sneer. "Special tools, huh? Sounds like an excuse for not knowing where to begin." "It's not an excuse," Kesha replied, already dialing her phone. "My supplier will have the tools here in 2 hours." What no one knew was that her supplier was an insider at the car manufacturer, someone she'd worked alongside during 3 years of confidential projects. Not only would the tools arrive, but if pushed, her true expertise could be confirmed by the company itself. While she arranged everything, Marcus leaned toward his friends. 2 hours of free entertainment, he muttered, loud enough for her to hear. "Let's see how far she drags out this little act." Kesha hung up and turned to face him squarely. "The tools will be here in 2 hours. Do you want me to start now, or would you rather keep talking?" "You can start," Marcus grinned cruelly, "but when you fail, and you will, you'll admit you tried to humiliate men who've been doing this for years." "Perfect," Kesha answered, her composure rattling the sharper observers. "And when I succeed, I expect the same honesty from you." Every insult thrown her way only sharpened her resolve. What Marcus and his privileged circle didn't understand was that Kesha's determination had been forged in battles they had never fought. Each cruel remark wasn't weakening her, it was fueling her. 2 tense hours crawled by. Marcus and his friends turned the wait into a party, ordering champagne, placing cruel bets on her failure, even filming clips they planned to share later, mocking the woman who thought she could fool them. "I bet the tools won't even arrive," laughed Jonathan Berkshire, heir to a luxury hotel empire. "She's just stalling before admitting she knows nothing." Kesha sat quietly in the corner, appearing indifferent, but in truth, she was studying Marcus closely. Every time the conversation touched on who had worked on the car before, his eyes shifted, his jaw tightened. There was something he was hiding, and she was getting closer to uncovering it. There was no doubt now, Marcus was hiding something. When the Advanced Automotive Solutions truck pulled into the lot, the room went completely silent. This wasn't just another repair van. It was a specialized vehicle loaded with equipment worth more than most of the cars sitting in that showroom. The tall man who stepped out wore a spotless mechanic's uniform. "Kesha Johnson?" he asked. "That's me," she answered calmly, rising to meet him. The man was David Morrison, senior engineer with Lamborghini North America's performance division. For 3 years, he had been Kesha's direct supervisor during her confidential consulting work with the company. If anyone knew her skills, it was him. "I brought everything you requested," David said as he began unloading equipment. The dealership mechanics exchanged uneasy glances. This was gear they had only seen in training manuals. A professional diagnostic scanner, a factory ECU reprogramming kit, and tools so specific that even official dealerships rarely had them on hand. "David," Kesha whispered discreetly, nodding toward the crowd of men watching. "This situation is unusual." "I noticed," he replied just as quietly. "I saw the security feed when I arrived. And I also suspect the problem isn't only technical. Want me to stay and support you?" That offer changed everything. David wasn't just bringing tools, he was bringing official Lamborghini oversight. If Kesha uncovered something shady, his presence would make it impossible to cover up. "That would be perfect," she replied, already feeling the shift in the room. Marcus hurried forward, his voice cracking slightly. "Who is this guy? You can't bring outside help. This is supposed to be a solo test." David pulled out his corporate card and introduced himself clearly. "David Morrison, Senior Engineer, Lamborghini North America. I'm here only to provide technical support. Miss Johnson will handle all diagnostics herself." The card passed from hand to hand. The smirks faded. Suddenly, this wasn't a game. It was an official situation with the car manufacturer directly involved. She knows people at Lamborghini," one of Marcus's friends stammered, the weight of the moment sinking in. Kesha wasted no time. She connected the first diagnostic tool to the car. Instantly, streams of data filled the screen. David leaned closer, frowning. "Kesha, do you see this?" he muttered, pointing at the codes. "I see it," she replied steadily, though there was a spark of satisfaction in her eyes. The ECU was reprogrammed with unauthorized software about 3 months ago, and a third-party performance chip was installed, completely uncalibrated. "That's serious," David said, loud enough for everyone to hear. "Unauthorized modifications void warranties and can create dangerous safety issues." Marcus's face drained of color. Wait. That's not the point of this test. She just needs to get the car running." "Actually," Kesha corrected him, still working calmly, "it has everything to do with it. Those sloppy modifications are exactly why the engine isn't running." Over the next hour, Kesha dismantled the false upgrades piece by piece. Her hands moved with the confidence of someone who had done this hundreds of times. David watched silently, recalling why she had been one of Lamborghini's most respected consultants. "Interesting," she murmured, examining the chip she had just removed. "It looks like a premium performance part, but it's a counterfeit. A cheap replica that could destroy the engine if left in." David's brows knitted. "Counterfeit? That's dangerous and illegal. Whoever put this in risked the owner's life." Marcus was now sweating openly. "Look, maybe we should stop here. The important thing is that the car works, not whatever this is." "Mr. Wellington," Kesha said firmly, her calm voice cutting through the tension. "You told us 4 different mechanics tried to repair this car. Where exactly were the last modifications done?" I don't remember," Marcus stammered. David tapped on his tablet, scrolling through factory records. His frown deepened. "Mr. Wellington, according to our database, this vehicle has never had authorized modifications. Any performance work should have been reported to headquarters." "It wasn't," the crowd murmured. "Wait, you keep records of everything?" one of Marcus's friends asked, stunned. "Of course," David replied. "Every Lamborghini has a full service history. Maintenance, modifications, diagnostics, especially changes to the electronic systems." Kesha kept working steadily, but now her focus had sharpened. She wasn't just repairing a car anymore, she was uncovering a secret Marcus desperately wanted buried. Kesha wasn't just fixing a car, she was building a case. Every counterfeit part, every sloppy modification, every trace of fraud was now being documented by official Lamborghini equipment. "David," she said, snapping the final cable into place, "could you record an official technical report on everything we've uncovered?" "Of course," he replied without hesitation. "Full record of unauthorized modifications, counterfeit parts, and all potential damage." The workshop fell silent. The same men who had been cracking jokes earlier were now watching in uneasy silence as a real investigation unfolded, one backed by Lamborghini itself. Marcus made one last attempt to regain control. "Look, this is all fascinating, but the deal was simple. Either you make the car work, or you admit you can't." Kesha set her tools down and looked him square in the eye. "Mr. Wellington, the car will work, but now we have something far more serious here." She let the silence hang for a beat. "Someone tried to cheat you out of your money with fake, dangerous modifications, and I have a strong feeling you know exactly who that was." Marcus's face twitched. She'd struck a nerve. This wasn't just about a bet anymore. There was something much bigger underneath, and Kesha intended to drag it into the light. David finished calibrating the last machine and gave her a nod. "Everything's ready for the final test." "Perfect," Kesha said calmly, her hand moving to the ignition. "Let's see if 3 years of designing systems for Lamborghini taught me anything." The entire room held its breath as she turned the key. The Lamborghini didn't just start, it roared. A thunderous, flawless sound that shook the walls. Pure Italian engineering, restored to its intended perfection. No fake parts, no cheap shortcuts, no lies. For 3 long seconds, no one moved. Then the room erupted. The same men who had mocked her were now staring in open disbelief. Marcus Wellington III looked like he'd seen a ghost. "Impossible," he whispered, staggering toward the car. How did you do that?" "Simple," Kesha replied, stepping out of the car with composed confidence. "I removed every unauthorized modification, replaced the counterfeit parts, and restored the system to factory settings. Nothing more." David stepped forward, tablet in hand, his tone shifting into formality. "Mr. Wellington, I must officially inform you of our findings. This vehicle contained dangerous modifications that not only voided the warranty, but placed your safety at real risk." "What kind of risk?" asked Jonathan Berkshire, the hotel heir, his bravado gone. "The counterfeit chip was forcing the engine into constant overheating," Kesha explained, showing them the data. "A few more weeks of driving, and you would have faced a catastrophic engine failure, possibly even fire." Marcus's face turned ashen. "Fire? Are you trying to scare me?" "I'm not trying anything," David replied coldly. "I'm stating facts. Miss Johnson didn't just fix your car. She may have saved your life." He paused, then added with deliberate weight, "And for those of you who don't know, Miss Johnson isn't just any mechanic. She is Kesha Johnson, former senior consultant to Lamborghini's Performance Engineering Division." A ripple of shock spread through the crowd. "Former consultant," someone repeated. "For 3 years," David continued, "she helped develop and test electronic systems for our most advanced models. She holds certifications most mechanics only dream about." Marcus tried to force a smirk, desperate to claw back control. "Fine, she fixed it. Great, where's my money?" "Not so fast," Kesha said, lifting an envelope David had slipped her earlier. "Before we discuss payment, we need to talk about the evidence we just uncovered. Specifically, who installed these dangerous modifications in the first place?" Marcus froze. His expression shifted instantly, betraying the panic beneath his facade. What evidence?" he stammered. David opened his laptop and connected a portable projector. The glow filled the room, signaling the next stage of a revelation that would strip away every last one of Marcus's lies. Kesha wasn't just repairing a machine, she was building a case. Every counterfeit part, every sloppy modification, every piece of fraud was being logged into Lamborghini's official records. "David," she said steadily, Please prepare a full technical report. Already on it, he replied. Unauthorized modifications, counterfeit parts, potential damage, all recorded. The workshop was dead silent. The same men who had mocked her earlier were now watching as their cruel game transformed into a serious investigation. Then came the revelation. During our analysis, Kesha said, pointing at the screen, we found something fascinating. The counterfeit chip installed in this vehicle has a traceable serial number. Marcus tried to scoff. So what? But his voice trembled. This particular chip, Kesha continued, was sold by a company called Performance Plus Modifications. A company that, she paused, watching his reaction closely, lists you, Mr. Wellington, as majority shareholder. The silence was explosive. Every head turned toward Marcus. His forehead was beaded with sweat. This is nonsense, he snapped. I never... Mr. Wellington, David interrupted, projecting official documents onto the screen. Corporate records, tax ID 87.742.921/00001-63, majority shareholder, Marcus Wellington III, 60% ownership. The truth detonated like a bomb. Marcus hadn't been the victim of incompetent mechanics. He was the architect of a fraud, installing counterfeit parts in his own car, then blaming others to push his company's products. Wait! Jonathan Berkshire stepped forward, his voice shaking. Marcus, you installed fake parts in your own car? Why? Kesha pulled out another document from her envelope. Because he needed proof. He deliberately created a problem he knew few could solve, so he could parade around, claiming mechanics were incompetent. Then he used that narrative to sell his so-called solutions. And that's not all, David added, scrolling through more records. In the last 6 months, at least 15 other Lamborghini owners purchased parts from this company. All of them had the same dangerous modifications. The room erupted. You sold me a kit last month, Richard Foster shouted, livid. My Aventador's been acting up for weeks, another man roared. I even put one in my Ferrari. You told me it was factory original. Marcus's empire collapsed in real time. He wasn't just a spoiled heir making sexist bets. He was a fraud who endangered lives while using prejudice as a smokescreen. Mr. Wellington, David said, his voice sharp and official. As a representative of Lamborghini, I am notifying you that a formal investigation has been launched. Our legal team will also pursue action for trademark violations and unauthorized use of Lamborghini logos on counterfeit products. Marcus's composure shattered. He staggered back, pale and trembling. About our original bet, Kesha said evenly, stepping closer. You promised me $100,000 if I fixed your car. The car is running perfectly. But you also promised something else, that if I failed, I'd admit women don't understand engines. Her voice cut through him like steel. Well, I succeeded. And now, it's your turn to admit the truth. David quietly turned on a professional camera. For legal purposes, Mr. Wellington, we require your statement on record. Marcus's eyes darted around the room. His friends stared at him with disgust. He had gone from a wealthy socialite to a disgraced criminal in a single afternoon. Kesha, he pleaded, his voice breaking. Maybe we can talk privately. Work something out. There is no deal, she said firmly. You tried to humiliate me because I'm a woman and because of the color of my skin. Worse, you endangered lives with counterfeit parts and used prejudice to cover your crimes. That ends today. Jonathan Berkshire shook his head in disgust. You're pathetic. You didn't just lie, you used racism and sexism to hide the fact that you're a crook. David closed his laptop with finality. Gentlemen, I strongly recommend that anyone who purchased from Mr. Wellington's company contact an authorized dealership immediately for a safety review. While Marcus stood there in shock, watching his reputation, his wealth, and possibly his freedom dissolve before his eyes, Kesha quietly packed her tools. She carried no anger, no gloating, only the calm satisfaction of someone who had fought back with skill and integrity. "David," she said as she walked away, "make sure a copy of that report reaches the police. They'll want to know how many people were put at risk." What had started as a cruel bet ended with the unraveling of a criminal empire. Marcus Wellington III had gambled on prejudice and arrogance and lost everything. 6 months later, Kesha Johnson signed a contract as technical director of the largest luxury car dealership network on the West Coast. The woman they mocked had become the one they could never ignore again. Her salary had increased by 400%. She now commanded a team of 80 elite mechanics. "Miss Johnson," the CEO said proudly during her promotion ceremony, "your exposure of the Performance Plus scheme didn't just save our brand, it protected the entire industry. 17 dealerships have already adopted your security protocols." Meanwhile, the story had exploded online. The video of Marcus's forced confession hit 2 million views in just 48 hours. Overnight, Kesha became a national symbol of skill, resilience, and professional integrity. Marcus Wellington III's fate could not have been more different. His company was dismantled by federal investigators. He lost $80 million in lawsuits. His wealthy friends abandoned him like a bad investment. The last record placed him as a minimum wage salesman at a used car lot. "Ironic, isn't it?" David Morrison remarked at Kesha's promotion party. "The man who claimed women don't understand engines now works for a network whose security protocols were designed by the very woman he tried to humiliate." Kesha only smiled as she watched her team celebrate. 40% women, 30% black, all chosen purely for their skills, not their connections. "You know what the best revenge really was?" she told David. "Not destroying Marcus. Proving that excellence has no color or gender, that prejudice is just wasted talent. Her victory wasn't the $100,000 payout. It was the transformation of an industry." Kesha had shown that the most powerful answer to prejudice isn't anger. It's competence so undeniable that the world has no choice but to respect it. Marcus tried to bury her with racism and sexism, but in the end, he buried himself. And Kesha, she proved that real revenge is living a success your enemies can't even imagine. If this story of justice and transformation inspired you, don't just leave. Join us. Subscribe now and share in the comments where you're watching from. After all, stories like this prove that sometimes karma just needs a little technical help.